The Department of Homeland Security is shutting down on February 13th at midnight, and if you have a pending visa application, a green card interview scheduled, or you're an employer trying to onboard a new hire on Monday morning, you need to know exactly what happens next. Here's what most people don't understand. Not all government shutdowns are created equal. This one affects DHS, which means ICE, CBP, TSA, and yes, the agency everyone's panicking about, USCIS. But here's the twist. USCIS operates differently than every other federal agency, and that difference could mean your case keeps moving forward or gets stuck in limbo for weeks. You must watch until the end, because I'm going to reveal the one document every employer needs to have ready by Monday morning if E-Verify goes offline, and if you don't have it, you could face serious compliance penalties. And then I'll show you the USCIS Processing Center loophole that almost nobody knows about, the one that determines whether your application keeps moving during the shutdown or gets frozen. If you don't watch until both reveals, you could make a costly mistake this weekend. Let's get into this. Welcome to U.S. Immigration News Daily, your trusted source for the latest updates and expert guidance on U.S. immigration. I'm here to cut through the noise and give you the facts that actually matter. Why this matters. Late last night, February 13, 2026, Congress failed to reach an agreement on DHS appropriations. The primary sticking point? A massive dispute over immigration enforcement funding, specifically, whether to allocate an additional $4.2 billion for ICE detention bed expansion and mandatory body cameras for Border Patrol agents. The Senate rejected the House's continuing resolution at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Time. The White House issued a statement at 11:52 p.m. confirming that DHS will enter a partial shutdown effective midnight February 13th. Now, here's why this matters to you specifically. If you have a pending USCIS application, whether that's an H-1B extension, a green card application, an EAD renewal, advance parole, or literally any immigration benefit, you're probably panicking right now wondering if your case just got put on hold indefinitely. If you're an employer and you have new hires starting Monday morning who require E-Verify confirmation within 3 business days, you're wondering how you're supposed to comply with federal law when the federal system is offline. And if you're traveling internationally this weekend and you're scheduled to re-enter the U.S. on a visa, you're wondering if CBP is even going to be staffed at the airport. I'm going to answer all of these questions with official sources, not speculation, not rumor, not what someone's cousin's lawyer said on Reddit. We're going straight to the DHS contingency plan and the USCIS fee-funded operations memo. But before we go any further, if you want to stay updated on breaking immigration news like this, news that drops at midnight and affects your life by Monday morning, you need to subscribe to this channel right now. I post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern with the latest USCIS announcements, policy changes, and breaking developments. And I wasn't joking about those 2 reveals. At 13 minutes, I'm showing you the exact alternative procedure employers must follow when E-Verify is down. It's called Form I-9 Retention Compliance. And if you don't do it correctly, you're opening yourself up to ICE audits and penalties. And at 14 minutes and 30 seconds, I'm revealing the specific USCIS service centers that continue processing during shutdowns versus the ones that go dark. This determines whether your case keeps moving or gets frozen. So keep watching. Don't skip ahead. You need both of those pieces of information. Main content. Part 1. What is actually shutting down? Let's start with the basics. When we say DHS is shutting down, we need to be very specific about what that means. The Department of Homeland Security oversees multiple agencies. The big ones are U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Transportation Security Administration, TSA, U.S., Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, U.S. Secret Service, U.S. Coast Guard. Now here's the critical distinction. Most of these agencies are funded through annual congressional appropriations. When Congress doesn't pass a funding bill, those agencies enter what's called a lapse in appropriations. During a lapse, only essential personnel continue working, and they work without pay until the shutdown ends and back pay is authorized. Who keeps working? During the shutdown, essential personnel include CBP officers at ports of entry, airports, land borders, seaports, TSA agents at airport security checkpoints, ICE enforcement and removal operations, Secret Service protective details, Coast Guard search and rescue operations. These people show up to work. They just don't get paid until Congress passes a funding bill. Who gets furloughed? Non-essential personnel get furloughed, meaning they're placed on unpaid leave and are legally prohibited from working, even voluntarily, until the shutdown ends. This includes DHS policy staff, congressional liaisons, public affairs officers, training coordinators, many administrative support roles. The E-Verify problem. Now let's talk about the issue that's causing mass panic among employers. E-Verify. E-Verify is the online system that employers use to confirm that new hires are authorized to work in the United States. It's mandatory for federal contractors and mandatory in many states for all employers. Here's the problem. E-Verify is operated by USCIS, but it's supported by infrastructure and IT personnel who are funded through DHS appropriations, not USCIS fee revenue. During previous shutdowns, 2013, 2018 to 2019, E-Verify went completely offline. The website displayed a message saying, E-Verify is unavailable due to a lapse in government funding. Employers could not create new cases. They could not resolve tentative non-confirmations, TNCs. The entire system was dark. What employers are required to do? Here's where it gets tricky. Federal law, specifically 8 U.S.C. Section 1324A, requires employers to complete Form I-9 for every new hire and to verify employment authorization within 3 business days of the hire date. For employers enrolled in E-Verify, you're required to create an E-Verify case within 3 business days of the employee's start date. But what happens when the system is offline? Do you violate federal law by not running E-Verify? Or do you violate federal law by hiring someone without completing the verification process? The answer is neither, if you follow the alternate procedure correctly. USCIS issues guidance during shutdowns. During the 2018 to 2019 shutdown, USCIS issued official guidance stating, employers should continue to complete Form I-9 when hiring new employees. If E-Verify is unavailable, employers will have an additional 3 business days from the date E-Verify becomes available again to create E-Verify cases for employees hired during the period of unavailability. In other words, you still complete Form I-9 on time, within 3 business days of hire. You document that E-Verify was unavailable. You create the E-Verify case within 3 business days after the system comes back online. But, and this is critical, you must document this properly. All right, we're getting into the weeds here, but this is exactly the kind of detail that separates people who stay compliant from people who get hit with penalties. If this video is helping you understand what's actually happening, not the panic headlines, not the speculation, but the real operational facts, hit the like button right now and drop a comment below. Are you an employer worried about E-Verify? Or are you an applicant worried about your pending USCIS case? Just type employer or applicant so I know who's watching. Remember, at the end of this video, I'm revealing the exact documentation process you need to follow if E-Verify is offline when you onboard new hires Monday morning. This is not optional. This is the difference between compliance and penalties. And also, I'm showing you which USCIS processing centers keep running during shutdowns and which ones go dark, and why that matters for your case. Don't skip those. Let's keep going. Main content part 2. Does USCIS shut down? Now let's get to the question everyone is panicking about. Does USCIS shut down during a DHS funding lapse? The short answer is no, mostly. Here's why USCIS is different. Number 1. USCIS is fee-funded. Unlike most federal agencies, USCIS does not rely primarily on congressional appropriations. Instead, USCIS is funded almost entirely through the fees that applicants pay when they submit immigration benefit requests. When you pay $460 for Form I-485, Adjustment of Status, or $555 for Form I-129, H-1B Petition, or $410 for Form I-765, EAD application, that money goes into the USCIS Immigration Examinations Fee account. USCIS uses that fee revenue to pay its employees, maintain its technology systems, operate its field offices, and process applications. Because USCIS is fee-funded, it does not experience a lapse in appropriations when Congress fails to pass a DHS funding bill. Number 2. USCIS employees keep working and keep getting paid. During the 2018 to 2019 government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, lasting 35 days, USCIS remained fully operational. Immigration officers continued adjudicating applications. Field offices remained open. Interviews were conducted. Oath ceremonies happened. Cases were approved. USCIS issued an official statement on December 22, 2018, confirming USCIS is funded almost entirely by fees paid by applicants and petitioners. As such, the agency's operations will not be affected by a lapse in congressional appropriations. So, if USCIS is fee-funded, why is everyone panicking? Because there are some exceptions. First, USCIS functions that do shut down. A small portion of USCIS operations, specifically refugee processing, asylum interviews, and certain immigration court support functions, are funded through congressional appropriations via the Refugee Admissions Program and other DHS allocations. During a shutdown, those functions are suspended. Refugee case processing is paused. Asylum office interviews may be rescheduled, though this varies by shutdown. USCIS Asylum Division may furlough some personnel. However, these disruptions affect a very small percentage of USCIS applicants. What continues during the shutdown? H-1B petitions continue to be processed. Green card applications, I-485, continue to be adjudicated. EAD renewals, I-765, continue to be processed. Advance parole, I-131, applications continue. Naturalization interviews and oath ceremonies continue. Biometrics appointments continue. USCIS field offices remain open. Premium processing continues. If you paid the $2,805 fee, you still get 15 calendar day adjudication. USCIS Contact Center and Online Systems. The USCIS Contact Center, 1-800-375-5283, remains operational during shutdowns. The USCIS Online Case Status System, my.uscis.gov, remains accessible. You can still file applications electronically through USCIS online filing. What about immigration courts? Immigration courts are part of the Executive Office for Immigration Review, EOIR, which is under the Department of Justice, not the Department of Homeland Security. If there's a DOJ shutdown, immigration courts are affected. But since this shutdown is a DHS shutdown, immigration courts continue operating normally. However, here's an important nuance. ICE attorneys represent the government in removal proceedings. If ICE experiences staffing reductions due to the shutdown, some immigration court hearings may be administratively continued, rescheduled, because the government attorney is unavailable. This is case by case and depends on whether the ICE Office of Chief Counsel designates attorneys as essential, CBP, and international travel. If you're traveling internationally and you're planning to re-enter the U.S. this weekend, you might be worried about whether CBP officers will be at the airport. The answer is yes. CBP officers are considered essential personnel. Every port of entry remains staffed. You will be processed when you arrive. However, there may be longer wait times because some administrative support staff are furloughed, which can slow down processing. Overtime is restricted during shutdowns, so there may be fewer officers per shift. If you're flying into a major international airport, JFK, LAX, ORD, MIA, ATL, expect normal operations but potentially longer lines. TSA and domestic travel. TSA agents are also essential personnel. Airport security checkpoints remain open. However, during the 2018 to 2019 shutdown, TSA experienced a significant increase in call-outs, agents calling in sick because they were working without pay. This led to longer security lines and, in some cases, terminal closures at smaller airports. If you're flying domestically this weekend, arrive earlier than usual, especially at smaller regional airports. What about visa appointments at U.S. embassies? U.S. embassies and consulates abroad are part of the State Department, not DHS. If there's a State Department shutdown, visa appointments are affected. But since this shutdown is a DHS shutdown, visa interviews at U.S. consulates continue as scheduled. However, if the shutdown extends and State Department funding also lapses, then visa operations abroad would be disrupted. This is the first reveal. Now, we've reached the 13-minute mark, and I promised you the exact procedure employers must follow if E-Verify is offline when you're onboarding new hires. Here it is. Step 1. Complete Form I-9 on time. You are still required to complete Section 2 of Form I-9 within 3 business days of the employee's hire date, even if E-Verify is unavailable. Do not delay Form I-9 completion. That's a violation. Step 2. Document the E-Verify outage. In your internal records, not on Form I-9 itself, but in your I-9 retention files, create a written notation that states, E-Verify was unavailable due to government shutdown from start date to end date. E-Verify case will be created within 3 business days of system restoration per USCIS guidance. Step 3. Monitor E-Verify status. Check the E-Verify website daily, even if it's offline. Bookmark https://www.e-verify.gov. When the system comes back online, USCIS will post a notice confirming the restoration date. Step 4. Create E-Verify case within 3 business days of restoration. Once E-Verify is back online, you have 3 business days to create the E-Verify case for any employee hired during the outage. If E-Verify comes back online on a Wednesday, you must create the case by end of business on the following Monday. Step 5. Retain all documentation. Keep your written notation in the employee's I-9 file for the required retention period, 3 years after hire or 1 year after termination, whichever is later. If ICE conducts an I-9 audit and you can show you completed Form I-9 on time, you documented the E-Verify outage, you created the E-Verify case within 3 business days of system restoration, then you're in compliance. You will not face penalties. What happens if you don't do this? If you simply ignore E-Verify because the system is down and you don't create the case once it comes back online, you are out of compliance. ICE can issue a notice of intent to fine ranging from $254 to $2,507 per I-9 violation, as of 2026 penalty adjustments. If you have 10 employees hired during the shutdown and you didn't follow the alternate procedure, that's potentially $25,070 in fines. So yes, this matters. A lot. Reveal number 2. Now let's get to the second reveal. The USCIS Processing Center loophole. Most people don't realize this, but not all USCIS service centers operate the same way during shutdowns. Fee-funded versus appropriations-funded functions. As I mentioned earlier, most USCIS operations are fee-funded, but certain USCIS personnel, particularly those working on refugee and asylum cases, are funded through appropriations. Here's how this affects processing. Service centers that continue full operations. California Service Center CSC, Laguna Niguel, CA, Nebraska Service Center NSC, Lincoln, Nebraska, Potomac Service Center PSC, Arlington, Virginia, Texas Service Center TSC, Dallas, Texas, Vermont Service Center VSC, St. Albans, Vermont. These centers process employment-based petitions H-1B, L-1, O-1, etc. family-based petitions, I-130, I-485, and adjustment of status applications, all fee-funded. They remain fully staffed and fully operational during DHS shutdowns. USCIS field offices. Field offices, the local USCIS offices where you go for interviews, also remain open because they're fee-funded. Your green card interview, your naturalization interview, your biometrics appointment, all of these continue as scheduled. Functions that may be disrupted. Asylum interviews at USCIS asylum offices, these may be rescheduled depending on staffing. Refugee processing cases. Some international field office operations, because some personnel abroad are State Department funded. Why this matters for your case. If your case is pending at a USCIS service center, whether it's an H-1B extension, an I-140 green card petition, or an I-485 adjustment of status, your case continues to be processed during the shutdown. You may still receive RFEs, requests for evidence. You may still receive approval notices. Your case does not freeze. However, if your case involves an asylum interview or refugee processing, you may experience delays or rescheduling. How to check your case status. Go to my.uscis.gov and enter your receipt number. If your case status updates during the shutdown, for example, case was approved or request for evidence was sent, that means USCIS is actively working on your case. If your case status doesn't change, that doesn't necessarily mean it's frozen. It may just mean your case is still in the normal processing queue. All right, let's recap what you need to know. For applicants, USCIS remains open and continues processing most applications. Your green card case, H-1B petition, EAD renewal, all of these keep moving. Refugee and asylum cases may experience delays. Field offices remain open. Interviews and oath ceremonies continue. For employers, E-Verify may go offline today at 12 a.m. You must still complete Form Y-9 on time. Document the E-Verify outage in your records. Create E-Verify cases within 3 business days after the system comes back online. For travelers, CBP and TSA remain operational. Expect longer wait times at airports. Arrive earlier than usual if you're flying this weekend. This is not the time to panic. This is the time to stay informed and follow the correct procedures. Legal disclaimer. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute legal advice. Immigration law is complex, and every case is different. If you have specific questions about your situation, consult with a qualified immigration attorney. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to this channel for updates every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And check out my latest video on the H-1B 2027 lottery. Registration opens in less than 3 weeks, and there's a critical salary mistake that's getting applications rejected. I'll link it in the description. Drop a comment below. Are you affected by this shutdown? Are you an employer, an applicant, or a traveler? Let me know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.